Last time on Southeast Gassers, it was our season opener at Brainerd Motorsports Park in Ringgold, Georgia. We saw Jerry Dean get his first Superstock win of the season. Then in C-Gas, Josh Pruitt in Youngblood fought the car all day, even striking the wall, only to come back and win his first race of the year.
In B-Gas, Colby Welch won a nail-biter against Mike Blackwell.
And to top it all off, Leslie Horn and Kenneth Phillips had a great shootout, but when the dust cleared, Kenneth Phillips took home the A-Gas win. Welcome to the Southeast Gassers Shelby Nationals, brought to you by Robbins Repairables. I'm your host, Mike Narks.
This event comes to you from Shadyside Dragway. Tucked into the rolling hills of Shelby, North Carolina, Shadyside is one of the last true outlaw tracks that are out there. Since opening in 1958, it remained unsanctioned until 2 years ago. This is a place the Southeast Gassers come to race twice a year.
So let's not hold back. Here's round one of Super Street. Let's head to David Lancaster for the call.
All right, Jerry Dean, the number one qualifier, was supposed to take on Zach Long. Looks like he's going to have a competition single right here. Zach Long unable to make the call for first round. Nothing changes for Jerry Dean. He's been straight and pure all day. He keeps that going. All right, next up, battle of the 4 and 5 qualifiers in Superstock. Alan Lovelady, the number 4 qualifier in the underdog, going to be in the quick time performance lane on the left side. And Bryant Dalton Sr. from the Dalton gang going to be in the mortgage option side on the right. Bryant Dalton gets to the line first as he'll move on to the next round. Dean Hall in the Sledgehammer, the number 7 qualifier, and Randy Kiefer, the number 2 qualifier in that Spine Tingler. Hall in that 66 Fairlane GT, 357 cubic inches. Randy Kiefer straight down the racetrack and puts that man to the next round. All right, KJ Phillips going to be taking on Don Wilhott. Don, the number 3 qualifier here today, and as I mentioned before, he's made a definite performance improvement in his program and done a great job painting that car. You know, that car was primer for at least 2 or 3 years. KJ Phillips. Wilhott has a problem out there in that left-hand lane. As he loses power or the car noses over, something happened out there. So KJ Phillips will move on to the next round.
And here's your semifinal results in Superstock with Dean against Dalton and Kiefer against Phillips. Let's head down to David to get that C-Gas action started.
Number 1 qualifier here today, Todd Oden out of Birmingham, Alabama, in that 58 Delray that he calls the Double X. He'll have a bye in the first round by virtue of being the number 1 qualifier. All right, first up going to be the number 9 qualifier, Diana Casto, in the quick draw. She's going to be in the quick time performance lane. And Troy Bostic is the number 14 qualifier. He'll be in the mortgage options lane. It's like they're going to try to get him moving back a little bit. Maybe that thing's stuck. Casto turns on the red light. Troy Bostic going to get a gift right here and move it to the next round. All right, Jesse Beaver in the Voodoo Child, the number 18 qualifier, going to try to take on the number 5 qualifier, Ernie Smith, in the Saturday Night Special. Ernie Smith takes that Brian Harris prepared race car down the racetrack to a win. Number 3 qualifier, Josh Pruitt, sits there in the 63 Ford Fairlane, 14-time winner on the Southeast Gasser circuit. Doug Poston might be leaking a little bit of fluid. I don't know if that's the case or not. They're giving him a look. They've already shut him down. Poston is going to be out. It's going to be a competition single for Josh Pruitt. Pruitt staying real consistent as well. So our competition's getting tighter and tighter on the lapse times. All right, next up, looks like Steve Davis rolling around the corner right there. Steve, number 15 qualifier, going to take on the number 10 qualifier in Robbie Walden. Going to try to knock off the former world champion in A-Gas, who's now running C-Gas, and Steve Davis. Steve Davis takes the win right there, and a little bit of an upset. The number 15 qualifier knocks out the number 10 qualifier, and for his efforts, he's going to get Josh Pruitt in the next round. 6 pair out is going to find the number 7 qualifier, Bryson Bub, taking on Zach Hall, and a couple of 20-somethings right here on the line. Bryson Bub putting that horsepower to use right there as he moves to round number 2 in that gold nugget. Alfred Adams, the number 8 qualifier in the Damn It Bob out of Clover, South Carolina, going to take on Gene Russell in the Junkyard Dyno. Russell going to be in the quick time performance lane. Eighth pair out right here, the Gaffney, South Carolina racer Billy Wilson in the Troublemaker, that 49 Studebaker truck. Jaron Purdue in the Adams County Outlaw, uncharacteristically the number 17 qualifier. Man, Billy Wilson riding a bucket Bronco down that racetrack, but gathers it in and drives by Purdue. So he goes on to round number 2.
It was pretty wild, that ride. I just wasn't letting out of it. It was a little bit everywhere. Could have better light. It's just a truck pulled the wheels real high and it just went a little left.
Matt Helms in a rowdy reputation out of McConnell, South Carolina, going to be in the mortgage option side. He's going to be taking on the 2-time and defending world champion Tim Hall in the Scalded Dog Rambler. Tim Hall, the number 2 qualifier here, as we said before, 2-time world champion. And for Matt Helms, that's just too much to overcome, as it is good morning, good evening, and good night as Tim Hall moves on to round number 2. Ninth pair out right here is going to find none other than Dan Hogan in the Flat Out Falcon, the number 11 qualifier. He's going to take on Ben Helms in the Pucker Time, who will be over in the quick time performance lane. Hogan turns on the red light, so Helms is going to move on into Pucker Time to the next round, where he gets the dubious honor of taking on number 1 qualifier, Todd Oden. Brad Wimberly, the number 4 qualifier, is going to be in the mortgage options lane in the Southern Sizzler. He's going to take on B.B. Brown in the Deputy Dog. It sits over in the quick time performance lane on the left side. Both of these guys out of Georgia. Boy, B.B. Brown left the line looking at these beautiful Carolina skies as he moonshotted that car. And Brad Wimberly, he kept digging off the line and he took the win in the Southern Sizzler.
Went good. The car felt good. I hadn't seen the time yet, but it left better. It's been leaving all day. We made a lot of changes to the car. We went from a leaf spring car to a coil spring car. So we're first race out with the coil spring, so we're learning something new every pass.
So here's how round 2 is shaping up for C-Gas. Before we continue with the Shadyside Nationals brought to you by Robbins Repairables, I want to thank Summit Racing Equipment and Molly Motorsports for making today's race possible. Now, on to B-Gas.
Greg Adams out of Winchester, Tennessee in the Hillbilly Hoodlum, that 1960 Ford Falcon. He's going to be in the quick time performance left lane, taking on none other than Bill Revels, the number 5 qualifier out of Canton, North Carolina, that 63 Comet that he drives. Bill Revels with Johnny on the spot with an incredible leave right there, and just leaving Greg Adams sitting at the line. Bill Revels moves on to round number 2.
That's a little better. We gained on it some.
Great matchup right here as you see the birthday boy, Mike Blackwell, in the Thunderstruck. He's the number 7 qualifier out of Campobello, South Carolina. He's going to be in the mortgage options lane. And Rod Bergner, the number 10 qualifier in the Iceman Cometh, he'll be over in the quick time performance lane. It may be decided right here on the line. Bergner with the advantage on the starting line, and by 4/10,000ths of a second takes the win. Charlie Lee, the number 3 qualifier, sits in the quick time performance lane in that Mustang of his. He's taking on the Elizabethan, Tennessee racer Kelvin Cannon in the loose cannon, that 1933 Willis panel van. Charlie Lee has been on kill with that car today. All right, number 8 qualifier, Rick Varner, sits in the water box, the dirt man, as he patiently waits on Michael Walters, who's in the quick time performance lane. The dirt man, Rick Varner, streaking down the racetrack to another round victory. Going to move right along where he'll get the winner of the Ted McKee, Todd Rosenberry matchup. Next up, Gerard Milladantri in the Wicked One, the number 4 qualifier. He's going to be in the mortgage options lane, and Jimmy Martin, the number 13 qualifier, the ditch digger, will be over in the quick time performance lane. Milladantri made a good pass in round 1 of qualifying. Round 2 brought forth a little erratic movement. Gerard Milladantri still having trouble harnessing that Wicked One and getting its name honestly. Milladantri crosses the center line, unfortunately, and ends his day right there. Number 16 qualifier Todd Rosenberry in the 2 Bumpy is going to be over in the quick time performance lane. Number 1 qualifier Timmy, our defending world champion in the Rocky Top Missile, sits in the mortgage options lane on the right side. Second round matchup going to be Ted McKee versus the dirt man Rick Varner. Number 2 qualifier here today, Colby Welch, former world champion in our B-Gas category, is going to be taking on the number 15 qualifier, Gary Smith out of Leesville, South Carolina in the chicken bone. Colby Welch in that Moonbeam Ranch Arrow marches on to round number 2. And the number 11 qualifier, Art Copeland, out of Beaufort, Georgia. Art Copeland matchup. That's going to be the Briley Scott, the number 6 qualifier, the 16-year-old out of Mill Spring, North Carolina. Not to be outdone, the wily fox of Art Copeland, that sly fox. He takes that Barracuda and puts Briley Stott back on the trailer.
So here's the bracket for B-Gas. It's shaping up to be a dogfight. As we head to round 1 of A-Gas, remember these drivers are not only reacting to the tree and hoping to outrun their competitor, they also have to shift gears. David, give us a call for round 1 of A-Gas.
Number 5 qualifier, Gabriel Burrell, the Southern Flyer, our defending world champion, that 31 Ford Tudor. He's over in the quick time performance lane. He's going to take on Doyle Lynn out of Dalton, Georgia, in that 51 Henry J called the Honky Tonk. Doyle Lynn left before the tree was activated, having a little trouble up there starting and getting in all the way into the stage, and giving that win right over to Gabriel Burrell, who will move on to second round. Number 1 qualifier, Todd Blackwell. We see that Lexan with the support in the windshield right there. So he's going to make his bye run right here. Really clean pass right there for Todd Blackwell out of Campobello, South Carolina. Serving notice, hey, we are here to win today. Next pair up, going to be the Barry Greg Stelz matchup. Stelz, the number 7 qualifier out of Wapaka, Wisconsin. And the Greer, South Carolina racer, Barry Lynn, clocking in at the number 10 slot in qualifying today. Barry Lynn takes the win right there. That is a big 7-10 matchup. Barry Lynn knocks off the number 7 qualifier, Greg Stelz, in a nice race. Next up, going to be the number 2 qualifier, Ben Christopher in the Happy Days, and Ray Ballou in the 15 qualifier in the Bad Alibi. He'll be over in the quick time performance lane on the left-hand side. Color of that Chevy 2 gone as Ben Christopher lightning fast down the racetrack and moves on to round number 2 with a great run right there. Next up, Leslie Horn, the number 4 qualifier, going to be taking on Tony Turner, the number 13 qualifier in the quick and dirty. Tony Turner continues that car going left and unfortunately has to back out of the competition right here with Leslie Horn. Number 8 qualifier, Chase Howard in that 67 Chevelle, sits in the mortgage options lane. The USA 1 car, Atlanta, Georgia area is where Rob Walden calls home, and he's over there in that 33 Willis called the Strychnine. Rob Walden takes the win right there. Kenneth, the number 3 qualifier, he's out of Landrum, South Carolina, in the Silver Streak 2, that 1958 Corvette. And Chris Whitley going to be over in the quick time performance lane. He was the number 14 qualifier here today. Kenneth Phillips in a big time move right there, so he moves on to the next round. Does Kenneth Phillips in the Silver Streak 2. Next 2 up going to be the number 6 qualifier, Quayne Stott in the Executioner 2. He'll be in the quick time performance lane. And Dean Jonas, the number 11 qualifier out of Mount Holly, North Carolina, he'll be in the mortgage options lane. Something happens to Stott down the track as he noses over, and Dean Jonas going to move on to the next round where he gets Kenneth Phillips.
Here's the results of the A-Gas bracket. Now let's get on to round 2 of C-Gas. David?
So we get second round of C-Gas started right here. We find Billy Wilson out of Gaffney, South Carolina, over there in the quick time performance lane. He's going to be taking on Bryson Buff in the Gold Nugget, that 57 Chevy Nomad. It'll be in the mortgage options lane right here. Looks like Billy Wilson gave the win over to Bryson Buff as he left before the tree was activated. So Bryson Buff will move on to round number 3. Spartanburg, South Carolina's Ernie Smith in the quick time performance lane, sponsored by Wings Etc. of Boiling Springs. He's over that Saturday night special car, being backed up by his daughter Hannah and Alfred Adams out of Clover, South Carolina in the Dammit Bob, the 1955 Chevy. Ernie Smith marches on to round number 3 with a win right there. Next C-Gas competitor right here, number 1 qualifier, Todd Oden out of Birmingham, Alabama in that big 58 Delray. Going to take on another big car, that Tri-5 Chevy of Ben Helms in the pucker time. Todd Oden continues to march on as that car being very consistent today as he moves on to round number 3. Diana Casto going to be in the mortgage options side right here in the quick draw. Brad Wimberly and the Southern Sizzler in the 62 Comet over in the Atlanta, Georgia area will be in the quick time performance lane. Brad Wimberly streaks away to the win right there, and he'll move on to round number 3. Tim Hall, the number 2 qualifier here, gets a bye in round number 2. Tim Hall with his best run of the day right there. Josh Pruitt out of Emmons, South Carolina, the winner of our race at Brainerd Motorsports Park, is going to be in the quick time performance lane on the left side. Steve Davis out of Monroe, North Carolina, the Spinny 3. Josh Pruitt moves on where he'll get Brad Wimberly.
Odin takes on Buff, and Tim Hall's Skull the Dog squares up with Ernie Smith in Saturday Night Special.
All right, we're into B-Gas eliminations right here. Bill Revels, the number 5 qualifier, is going to be in the mortgage options side, and Jimmy Martin, the number 13 qualifier in the ditch digger, is going to be over in the quick time performance lane. Bill Revels, the Canton, North Carolina racer, moves on to the semifinal with that victory right there over Jimmy Martin. Next pair up, the number 2 qualifier today, Colby Welch, the winner of our race at Brainerd, is going to be getting the number 10 qualifier, Rod Bergner, the Iceman, who will be over in the quick time performance lane. Bergner can surprise you at any moment. He is a worthy competitor. Colby Welch takes it down the racetrack. Bergner was a little bit skaty on that time, traveled a little further than he needed to, and didn't go in the straight line. So Colby Welch will be moving right along. Buford, Georgia racer Art Copeland going to be in the mortgage options side. Charlie Lee out of Tennessee going to be in the quick time performance lane. So the Barracuda versus the Mustang right here in the next pair getting ready to go. Charlie Lee keeps marching on where he gets Colby Welch in the next round. Now that ought to be a marquee matchup right there. Ted McKee, our defending world champion and number 1 qualifier here today, is going to be in the mortgage options side. He'll be taking on Rick Varner, the dirt man out of Kannapolis, North Carolina. Ted McKee takes the win down there by the narrowest of margins, only about a 1/10 of a second.
Here are your B-Gas matchups for the semifinals. David, take us through round 2 of A-Gas.
Rob Walden in the 33 Willis, who will be in the mortgage options side. Todd, as he pilots that slingshot down the racetrack, he's been number 1 qualifier all day. Todd Blackwell is on a mission today, and let's see if he can punch his ticket here to the next round. Rob Walden with a whole shot advantage, but not enough. And it appears that we just got word that Leslie Horn has had a malfunction and a breakage, so Gabriel Burrell will get a competition single.
Got a little lucky there and Leslie broke, so we ended up getting a bypass, and I think we got the car figured out now, so looking forward to the next round and see what we can do with Todd.
Ray, it's been really interesting so far this weekend. Last night we didn't get to start testing until late. We had a little storm come in, big heavy winds, and finally made a pass about 6 o'clock and actually slung a rod out of my engine. So we was at a mad rush, and the Happy Days car, being Christopher, he didn't have his engine back in time, so I let him use my backup engine to come to this race. I didn't want him to pull the engine out of his car and just ruin his weekend, so Chase Howard, that drives the USA 1 Chevelle, he stepped up, let me borrow his backup engine. So I'll be running a power engine this weekend here at Shadyside. Thankful for Chase and his dad, Tim, for letting me use that. Ben and Christopher come down last night to Brian Harris's house, and we worked on the car till after 1 o'clock. Got it all together. We got it here ready to go. We'll be out here first round of qualifying here shortly. And Ray, that just, amplifies what Southeast Gas Association is about. It is, both of those are competitors in my class, front runners. I mean, we all run there in the top 5 or 6 cars, and them stepping up and me letting Ben borrow my engine and then Chase letting me borrow his engine. It just goes to show the family atmosphere that we have here at Southeast Gas Association. That's something we pride ourselves on. It's friends, family. It's just something that y'all have to experience for yourself.
Next pair up is going to be Ben Christopher, the number 2 qualifier out of Boiling Springs, South Carolina, in the Happy Days, taking on Barry Lynn out of Greer, South Carolina, in the Little Red Wagon in the quick time performance lane. Ben Christopher laid on the tree, and that is all it took for Barry Lynn to go to the semifinals. Kenneth Phillips out of Landrum, South Carolina, going to be in the Mortgage Options lanes in that 58 Corvette that he calls the Silver Streak. And Dean Jonas from Mount Holly, North Carolina, in the Agent Orange will be over there in the Quick Time Performance lane in his 66 Chevy 2. Dean Jonas taking the win right there, and that's a little mini upset.
That ain't good. We've been running decent all day, but I don't know what happened. I think he got me out of the hole, and then when he did, that was all over. I almost caught him. I thought I caught him, but I didn't catch him.
It's going pretty good right now. I just won another round. Honestly, I changed my combination all around, and I ran yesterday, and I did not like it. So this morning, I took the transmission out, changed the gear ratios, changed the rear end ratios, and it just seems to be working for me. And I'm driving pretty good today, too. That always helps.
And here are your semis for A-Gas. Today's Shadyside Nationals, brought to you by Robbins Repairables, wouldn't be possible without help from G-Force Transmissions, Mickey Thompson Tires, and Ram Clutches.
Todd Oden in the Double X is going to take on Bryson Buff with the Gold Nugget, the 1957 Nomad. Double X is going to take it right there out of the left-hand lane as he moves on to the semifinals. Todd Oden marches on to another round win. All right, an intriguing matchup right here. Ernie Smith, Spartanburg, South Carolina, versus the Abbeville, South Carolina racer Tim Hall, the two-time and defended world champion in C-Gas. Ernie Smith staying in the quick time performance lane over there. He's been very successful over there today. Like Tim Hall took him to school right there. That's a veteran driver right there is Tim Hall, and that's why he is the two-time and defending world champion. Josh Pruitt that you see before you in the Youngblood 63 Ford Fairlane, and his opponent, the number 4 qualifier, Brad Wimberly, the Southern Sizzler, that 62 Comet. Winner of this round will receive a bye through the bracket all the way to the final. And Wimberly takes the win right there on a margin of victory of 6/10,000ths of a second. And with that win, he will move all the way to the final.
C-Gas finds Todd Odom up against Tim Hall. There are 2 1,000ths of a second separating these two.
All right, here we go. Superstock eliminations right here. Randy Kiefer and Kenny Phillips coming up at you next. Phillips going to be in the street legal here in the mortgage options lane. Randy Kiefer going to be in the quick time performance lane over there with his Pontiac Chieftain right there with that 406 cubic inch Butler performance motor underneath the hood. Randy Kiefer with a big starting line advantage, and he drives that on through to victory, and Randy Kiefer will move into the finals. That matchup coming your way right now. Jerry Dean in the mortgage options lane, right side, and Brian Dalton going to be in the quick time performance lane, left side. Jerry Dean from start to finish right there with a powerful performance out of that Alabama driver as he continues to march on. He has not lost a round in competition in 2024.
So your Superstock finals are Brainerd winner Jerry Dean against Randy Kiefer. Here are your C-Gas semis.
All right, folks, here is the marquee matchup right here. The two-time and defending world champion, Tim Hall, Abbeville, South Carolina. He's going to be over here in the mortgage option side. And the number 1 qualifier and a man who's won 12 times in Southeast Gasser history, Todd Oden, in that 58 Delray. These are the 2 biggest dogs in C-Gas. They're right here on the line getting ready to get it on. Winner of this one's going to get Brad Wimberly in the finals. Todd Oden takes the win right there. Folks, that is 2 10,000ths of a second margin of victory. Todd Oden moves on to the finals, where he'll take on Brad Wimberly, who has a bye this round right here. Let's see if he'll run this car hard to try to get lane choice or not. He won't get lane choice. Todd Oden will still have lane choice, but that is the finalist. Number 1 qualifier, defending world champion Ted McKee, going to take on Bill Revels right here. Bill Revels out of Canton, North Carolina in the 63 Comet, the Black Betty. Ted McKee, the Rocky Top Missile, that Chevy 2, will be in the mortgage options lane right here with Gene Fulton Power underneath the hood for him. Ted McKee bouncing his way down the racetrack. You know, I had to rob him of some ET, but he still gets there first. And Ted McKee, the Lenore City, Tennessee driver, will go into the finals here today.
Done good. The car's starting to come around better than it did at Brainerd. Had struggling with it down there, smacked the wall. As you can see the side of it, but we're about to get everything worked back at it. It's done good.
Colby Welch going to take the mortgage options lane, and Charlie Lee going to be in the quick time performance lane as they get ready for this big time B-gas matchup to see who will go to the finals. Identical reaction times for both drivers right there. I mean, down to the 10,000ths of a second. And Colby Welch comes out on top, winning by 2/10 right there over Charlie Lee.
Ted McKee takes on Colby Welch. Can Colby get 2 back-to-back wins? We'll see. David's got your call for the A-Gas semifinals.
All right, big time matchup right here in A-Gas. This is going to be a big time one. Number 1 qualifier today, Todd Blackwell in the slingshot on the quick time performance lane. The number 1 qualifier here today, going to take on our defending world champion, Gabriel Burrell, in that 31 Ford with the John Causey horsepower underneath the hood for him. Drag race right there, folks. I mean, big time. Gabriel Burrell taking the win in the mortgage options lane. And he answered the call right there, and that's how you get to be a world champion. Dean Jonas going to be in the mortgage options side here on the right-hand side of the racetrack in his 1966 Chevy 2. Harry Lynn been favoring that quick time performance lane all day. Barry Lynn, the fastest roofer in the upstate. I dare say nobody can match the speed that he can get down a racetrack.
So Gabriel Burrell will line up against Barry Lynn. One of these two will go home with the win.
That's going to be a good matchup right here. Jerry Dean going for 2 wins in a row as he won the first race of the year. Jerry Dean out of Alabama. That car has been nothing short of dominant. And Randy Kiefer is going to be his opponent, the Spine Tingler, which will be in the quick time performance lane. Red light Randy Kiefer, he gives it away to Jerry Dean. He knew he had to cut it thin on the tree because Jerry Dean has been laying down some impressive numbers. So Jerry Dean, your winner here, 2 in a row for him as he takes the first 2 wins of the year in 2024 in our super stock category.
Day wasn't real good to us. We had trouble getting down the racetrack. We worked on it and finally got it a lot better. I can't thank my crew enough. Karen Mitchell, David Richardson, they worked real hard and we got it better, but we still didn't get it where we wanted to be, but we lucked up and won the race, so that's what counts. Well, everybody was having a problem, seemed like spinning tires on the track. We was just fortunate to not spend less than they did, I guess, you know. And it was a good day for us, but it was also a bad day for us, so we're not complaining.
To win one event is hard. Everything has to fall your way. But to win 2 back-to-back, that's awesome.
Next up, we got our C-Gas finals coming up. Brad Wimberly in the Southern Sizzler, going to be taking on the number 1 qualifier here today, Todd Oden out of Birmingham, Alabama, in that big double X. Brad Wimberly looking to put that Southern Sizzler 62 Comet in victory lane here today at Shadyside. Todd in that 58 Delray trying for one more win here today to get the big gold cup and make it number 13 on his career. And Todd Oden puts it in victory circle after a long drought here in C-Gas. Todd Oden has punched his ticket here today at Shadyside in 2024 as that big double X getting ready to go through technical inspection and make his way over to victory lane.
Congratulations, Todd Oden. Let's see how B-Gas shakes out. All right, due to a technical glitch, we don't have Todd Odom's winner circle interview, but we are sure that he's going to give us plenty of opportunities to talk to him in the future.
Shelby Welch, number 2 qualifier here today in the 59 Ranchero, 65 Ranchero, the Moonbeam. Left side going to be Ted McKee in the Rocky Top Missile. He's out of Lenoir City. Colby Welch being backed up by his sister, past 2 world champions in B-Gas, meeting up right here. This one is going to be a barn burner right here, folks. Colby Welch takes the win. Number 2 qualifier here today, knocks off number 1 right there. Margin of victory, 8 thousandths of a second. No, excuse me. 3 ten-thousandths of a second. 3 ten-thousandths of a second, the margin of victory right there in that B-Gas race.
It was a very good day. We started out kind of questioning the day where we were at, qualified second, but still very strong. We made the few changes we needed to get us to this final and get the car running good and carry on from there. It was a very good team effort from my family, friends here supporting us, and sponsors back home. Biggest challenge was just overcoming that final round. I've met Ted in many finals, and it's always a very close race, so it kept me on edge. You know, it's whether he gets it or I do, it's always right there. So that was the biggest feat of the day.
Colby Welch is clearly the man to beat in C-Gas. Here comes our last race of the night, our A-Gas Finals.
Now we're down to the kings of the sport, the last 2 men standing right here in competition today at Shadyside Dragway. The Greer, South Carolina racer Barry Lynn in the 65 2-door Chevelle hardtop wagon. The little red wagon in the mortgage option side going to be chasing up against the defending world champion Gabriel Burrow in the 31 Ford. Gabriel Burrow a little squirrely in the middle of the track, but he gains it back in and takes the win right there. Margin of victory .0152 right there for Gabriel Burrow. And who says we don't do it close and we don't do it tight here?
It was rough. We fought it all day. First pass ended up having some issues with the car. Second qualifying pass had some issues with the car. First round of eliminations had some issues with the car. Second round of eliminations had some sort of issues with the car. Third round of eliminations it finally ran, and then in the finals it went really fast and really left. Swap parts a lot today. Just stuff happened. I mean, it was like we weren't supposed to win, but then well, here we are, so obviously we were.
Congratulations to Gabriel Burrell and all of the winners and competitors of the Shadyside Nationals, brought to you by Robbins Repairables. Join us next time from Killcare Dragway. For PowerTube TV, Southeast Gassers, I'm your host, Mike Narks. Thanks for watching.
Like this show? Want more? Then head to WatchPTTV.com, the new 100% free PowerTube TV streaming network. Home of the best classic and new motorsports racing and build shows on the web.